So, welcome everyone. I want to thank you, Anita, for accepting our invitation. And I want a big round of applause. Big. There is a lot of true stories, hashtag true stories in this talk, so you are going to enjoy it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Anita Singh, and I work at Blinkist with Lara in Berlin. And today, we are going to learn about the basics of the Android styling system and material theming so that you can have the full, complete picture of how to style your apps most effectively in 2019. So without further ado, let's dive in. So why are we even talking about the Android styling system? Is there a problem? When it comes to styling, you have a lot of choice, but this can also lead to some confusion. For example, you may use a style, a theme, a text appearance, a theme overlay, a default style, which is something that might be applied even if you don't do anything. Material theming, when I first learned about this, I was pretty confused. Is this the same thing as material design 2, a material component? Does this have anything to do with the good old Android theme? And the fact that makes it all the more confusing is that they all use the style tag. So they're defined in exactly the same way. So you have something called a style and a theme, but a theme is a style. That's confusing. And the truth is, yes, they are all styles, but they differ in the attributes they support, what they're applied to, and how they are applied. And we're going to learn about these details for all of the styling techniques here. Starting with the style. It is the basic building block of styling on Android. It is a key value store, where the key is known as an attribute, and the value is what we provide in the style. It also applies to only a single view. So if you apply a style to a view group, it's not going to apply it to all of the child views. It only applies it to that single view group. Whereas there are styling techniques, such as themes, that do apply to all of the child views, but styles isn't one of them. So let's take a look at an example of a good old style. In this case, this style is inheriting from another style. So styles can inherit from each other. And then we have our attributes such as Android text color, Android font family, and these are the keys to our key value store. And the values is what we're providing in the style, which is color white and font Serif Pro Bold. And then you can apply the style using the style attribute on a view or anything that extends a view, such as a view group. So when should you use a style? When I first learned about styles, I thought it was just this way to get your layout XML to be clean and neat and to encapsulate all of the styling in one place. But that doesn't scale well. So I recommend that you only extract out a style if it is used in more than one place and more than one logically related component. And I say logically related component because you might have, let's say, a card view and a dialog. And they have some of the same values for the same attributes. And you extract out a style, and you apply the same style to both of them. But in the future, if you want to update the look of the card view, it's also going to impact the look of the dialog. And unless that's exactly what you want, even though they have the same values for the same attributes, you probably don't want to apply the same style to both of them. You want to limit unintended side effects. So it's perfectly fine to have multiple styles with the same values for the same attributes, but they are applied to different views and different logically related components. So this wraps up learning about styles, which is the basic building blocks of styling on Android. Let's now learn about another styling technique known as a text appearance, which you can only apply to a text view or a view that extends a text view, such as buttons and edit text. What is it? It is text-specific styling, but it only cares about attributes at the character level. It does not care about attributes at the paragraph level, such as max lines, line height, hyphenation frequency, break strategy, etc. And I know I definitely have put max lines in a text appearance before and been like, oh my god, why is this not working? Well, now we know. So let's take a look at an example of a good old text appearance. It contains attributes at the character level, which is text color and font family. And at this point, you can apply it as a style or a text appearance. But if you want to apply it as a text appearance, you want to use the Android:textAppearance attribute, which you can apply to a text view or any view that extends a text view, such as an edit text. So when should you use a text appearance? If you have a style that contains text-related attributes and a bunch of non-text-related attributes, it's generally a good idea to extract it out into a text appearance, because when you do Android:textAppearance on a text view, it's very clear what's going on there. Whereas a style can be styling all sorts of things. And also, text appearance is the only dynamic style. So you can do textView.setTextAppearance anytime after inflation. But there's no .setStyle. You have to provide that at creation time. So in the future, if you want to use it, you can use it and apply it programmatically whenever you want. It's there, ready for you to use. And if you're styling text only at the character level anyway, you might as well just use the text appearance from the beginning. No need to use a style. And again, you want to extract a text appearance if it's being used in more than one logic-related component. So this wraps up learning about two styling techniques that only apply to a single view. Let's now learn about a styling technique that also applies to the child views, and this is known as a theme. It is a type of style that you can apply to an app, activity, view, or view hierarchy, but at this point, we're going to focus on app and activity level theming, because the next section is completely devoted to view and view hierarchy level theming. And in order to apply a theme to an app or activity, you're going to do that in the Android manifest file with Android:theme attribute. And when you do that, context.setTheme is being called for you with that theme ID under the hood before the activity on create. And the reason for this is because themes are not dynamic styles. They need to be provided at inflation time. So if you want to do this programmatically, always make sure that you do it before the activity.onCreate. And something to note is that this is a terribly named method. Context.setTheme implies that you're replacing the theme, but it's actually applying the theme on top of whatever is below it. So themes are almost always applied. They're never really set. So that's something to be conscious of. So let's take a look at an example of a good old theme. And if your app has any UI, you've probably seen something like this before, with attributes such as color primary, color secondary, etc. And it's important to know that these are theme-level attributes. So if you throw in color primary in a text appearance or a style, it's not going to do anything. It only works in themes. And I've definitely done this before when I was starting out. So theme-level attributes only work in themes. And something cool that you can do is that you can reference styles in your theme. So for example, over here, I'm setting the card view style default style attribute to this round card view style. And what I'm saying is, hey, I want all of the card views in the app to have this round card view style by default. And that's why this card view style attribute is known as a default style attribute. Because by default, I want all the card views in my app to have this style. So this way, you can do app-wide widget-level styling through your theme. So anything that you want to apply universally in your app, you probably want to throw it in your theme, be it app widget styles, be it text appearances, color, etc. And the way to apply this theme is to use the Android:theme attribute. And again, you can apply this on the application, the activity, your view, or view hierarchy. And a very powerful feature that comes with using themes is that you can use them almost everywhere. Color state lists, styles, drawables, etc. So in this case, I'm using it in a color list drawable, and I'm saying I want the color to be color secondary when enabled. When disabled, I still want it to be color secondary, but with an alpha of 0.6. And I'm able to reference these theme-level attributes using this !@ syntax. The @ is optional, so you could drop it. You could just use $. And what this does is it looks up the color secondary for you in the current context. Because this color secondary could have been defined at the app level, at the activity level, at the view or view hierarchy level, and this will look up the one in the current context for you. So what this means is that you can get away with not hard-coding color almost throughout your app, because if you want to redefine it in certain places, you can just override the color secondary on that view or view hierarchy. So you might be wondering, okay, well, what's the point of referencing theme attributes everywhere? What do I gain from it? Well, this is so that the next time you go through your rebranding, all you have to do is update your new brand colors, widget styles, text appearance, etc. in one place in your app theme. And if you've referenced theme attributes everywhere in your app correctly, things will just automatically work and be updated. But if you were using hard-coded colors like blue, green, white everywhere in your app, when you update it in your theme, it's not going to have the intended effect that you want. So you lose out on a big advantage of using theming. Also, if you ever want to support night mode in your app, referencing theme attributes can really help, because when night mode is set, it uses a theme that you provide. And if you are using theme attributes everywhere, again, things will automatically work, the colors will be flipped. But if you're using hard-coded colors everywhere, then it's going to be really hard to support night mode. So essentially, use theme attributes throughout your app wherever you can, avoid hard coding. And this applies to colors, type scale, app widget styles, and so forth. All right. So when should you use a theme? If you want a style to apply to all of the child views in a view hierarchy, activity, etc., then you should think, aha, this looks like a job for a theme. Or if you want to implement a robust design system, because through theming, you can enforce your brand colors, widget styles, text appearance throughout your app, so that you don't end up with 10 different kind of grays or 10 different kind of greens in your app that don't have any meaningful difference from each other. And we actually had this at Blinkist, and we had to go in and fix this years later because we didn't use theming properly. We didn't enforce our brand colors or styles or consistent styling of our widgets throughout the app. So don't be like us and use theming correctly. So this wraps up app and activity level theming. Let's now talk about view-level theming, or learn about view-level theming, which can also be called a theme overlay. And it's nothing but a theme. Lollipop introduced view-level theming, and it's backported to Android X, backported to API 14 using Android X. And because of this, we can do Android:theme on a view or view hierarchy. And when you do this, it uses the context theme wrapper under the hood. And the context theme wrapper takes in a theme ID, and it applies that theme on top of whatever your base context theme is. And your base context theme might be your activity or app level theme. So whatever attributes you provide in the view level theme, it's going to override those attributes in the base context theme, and the rest of the attributes are going to remain untouched, and they are going to retain their original values. And it is in this way that view and view hierarchy level themes are overlaid on top of base context themes. And that's why it's known as a theme overlay. So let's take a look at one in action. You can apply a theme overlay using the Android:theme attribute, because again, it's nothing but a theme, except that it only contains the subset of values that you want to apply on top of your base context theme. And in this case, I only want to override the color primary for my button. I don't really care about any other attributes, and I don't need to inherit from the activity theme or the app theme in this case, because it is being applied on top of that. So essentially, theme overlays are just an optimization. We don't need to provide full-blown app themes every time we're theming views and view hierarchies. So when should you use a theme overlay? If you want things to look exactly the same, and you want to just change a few of the theme attributes, then theme overlay can really help you here. Or if you want to invert the theme for a view or view hierarchy, theme overlays can also help you here. Because let's say you have a light-themed activity, and you want a dark-themed toolbar. So dark background, light text for the toolbar. All you have to do is set Android:theme to themeoverlay.dark.actionbar, which is a platform-provided theme overlay, and the rest of your activity remains untouched. So this way, you can invert the theme for subsections of your view hierarchy. Or maybe you have a single activity architecture. If you apply a theme to your activity, it's going to apply it to your entire app. But maybe you want some fragments to be light-themed and some fragments to be dark-themed, and you can use theme overlay to do this. You can inherit from themeoverlay.light, themeoverlay.dark, which is again provided by the platform. You don't need to have a full-blown app theme to do this. And this is where theme overlays can really shine as an optimization. All right, so this wraps up the 4 main styling systems or styling techniques on Android. But what is the order of precedence? If I were to say Android text color equal to blue in a text appearance, and Android text color equal to green in a style, and if I were to apply that to the same view, which one's going to win? How many of you think the text appearance will win over the style? Okay, and how many of you think the style will win over the text appearance? Okay, that was roughly half. The answer is that the style will win. And to understand that, let's take a look at an example. And this is something we saw earlier where we have an app theme, and we're setting this card view style, default style attribute to this round card view style, which is basically setting all of the card views in our app to use this round card view style by default. And that's why this card view style attribute is known as a default style attribute, and the style it's pointing to is known as a default style. So what happens next? In order to understand this, let's take a look at an example of, or let's take a look at the card view class. And it has many constructors, and we're only going to look at 2 of them, where the first one calls into the second one. And if you look closely, you'll see that the last parameter in the card view class is the default style attribute for a card view that we just set, which is r.attra.cardViewStyle. And this is passed into the second constructor, which is passed into this context.obtainStyle attributes method, which then calls the getTheme.obtainStyle attributes method, which is essentially where all the magic happens, which is surprisingly well documented by Android. So what this method does is it takes in the set of attributes that you provide at the view level, which is the first parameter. The second one is the attributes that it supports. And the last 2 have to do with the default style. So the default style attribute, which in our case is r.attra.cardViewStyle, and default style res, which in our case is r.style.roundCardViewStyle. And it already knows the theme attributes because it's been called on the theme. So now essentially has all of the inputs, and then it uses a styling hierarchy to figure out which attributes to apply, where everything on the top overrides everything at the bottom. So it first applies the attributes in the text appearance, then the theme, the default style, the style, and the view, which means that the attributes in the view will override the attributes in the style, will override the attributes in default style, the theme, and the text appearance. And this is why, in the example I gave you, where Android text color equal to blue in the text appearance and Android text color equal to green in the style, this is why the style wins, because it's above the text appearance in the styling hierarchy. And it can be really frustrating to work with styles if you're not aware of the styling hierarchy and that all styles are not created equal. So, and this can be even more frustrating if, let's say, you set something in the text appearance or the theme overlay and something in the default style is overriding it, because the default style is usually set by the theme compat or material component, whatever your base app theme is. So nobody in your team has set this. You haven't set this, but Android has set this for you, and it's overriding what you're setting. So hopefully being conscious of the styling hierarchy will help you have a little bit more fun with styling, and hopefully it'll be a bit less frustrating. So now that we know the 4 basic styling techniques and the styling hierarchy, I think we're ready now to migrate to the latest and the greatest theme, the material component theme, which will help us take full advantage of material theming. So what is material theming? It is the ability to customize material design through 3 theming subsystems, color, typography, and shape, so that you can uniquely express your brand. And as you can see here, it's just a button, but it can look so different based on the shape, typography, and color that you apply. And in order to do this, you want to be using the Material Components library, which is an evolution of the design support library and contains some shiny new widgets and attributes. And an example of a new widget is like the bottom app bar. And all future updates now go to the Material Components library and not the design support library. So you want to be using this library as soon as possible. If you migrate to Android X, it does this migration for you automatically. And when you do this, you can now take full advantage of using the material component theme, and you can migrate to it. You could still migrate to it if you're using the design support library, but it doesn't have the latest stuff. So I recommend that you wait till you migrate to Android X to do this. And just as you have theme.appcompat, you now have theme.materialComponents. And then the material component theme is built on top of appcompat. So appcompat is one of its dependencies. So what this means is that you can use appcompat widget styles and material component styles in harmony. You don't have to Command F and get rid of appcompat styles everywhere. If it's working for you, you don't need to change it. It has shiny new attributes, some of which we're going to learn right now. And it's min SDK 14, compile SDK 28+, hopefully not a blocker for anyone. And the first theming subsystem that we're going to learn about is color theming. If you've ever looked at the material design documentation, you've probably seen something like this that has primary, secondary, etc. But what does this mean? To understand that, let's take a look at an activity that has been styled with the base material component theme, so nothing's been customized. And let's go over some of the attributes that are interesting. The first one being color primary variant. It is a new attribute, but it's similar to color primary dark in the appcompat world. And it's essentially a variant of your primary color, usually a darker variant. And then you have color primary, which is your primary branding color of your app. Then you have background, which is the background behind scrollable content in Android. So in this case, it's the background behind the list of card views. And then you have colorSurface, which is a new attribute. And it is essentially the color of material components, such as cards, sheets, menus, etc. So in this case, it's the color of the card view. And then you have colorOnPrimary, which is the color of content that goes on primary backgrounds. So this includes icons and text. And this is a really nice way to enforce accessibility in your app, because you can make sure that whatever content is on color primary backgrounds, that it is readable and has enough contrast. And it also helps with the development process, because there's so many times, maybe I'm building a dialogue and it pops up, the background's white, the text is white, I can't read anything. But now we have more control over this universally through our app. Similarly, we have colorOnSurface, which is the color of content that goes on surface backgrounds. And in this case, it's the color of content on the card view. We have colorSecondary, which is the secondary branding color of your app. And colorOnSecondary, which is the color of content that goes on secondary backgrounds. So as you can see, we have a lot more control over color in our app. And what you see here is directly available as theme-level attributes. So when you migrate to the material component theme, you're ready to go. You can start defining what this is for your app. And again, now we have a lot more control over color universally in our app. So let's move on to the second theming subsystem, which is shape theming. So a lot of the themable components in our app now have a background shape drawable, which is a material shape drawable, which figures out its shape based on corner and edge treatments. And it's because of this we can now theme shape universally throughout our app. So let's say you have something like this, which looks a little reasonable, and you want to change it to something like this, which is a bit ridiculous. It has cut corners on top and rounded corners at the bottom. And maybe you want to apply this to text input layouts and buttons uniformly throughout your app. And something to note here, however, is that if you notice, the text input layout has a shorter radius than the button. So shape can be interpreted differently among components. Like if there was a floating action button, it would have even more dramatic corners. And that can feel like a bug, but it's something to be conscious of. And we can theme this universally throughout our app using some new attributes that are related to shape. And they are shape appearance small component, medium component, and large component. Small component is for components such as text input layouts and buttons. Medium component is for components such as dialogs and card views. And large component is for components such as nav drawers. And because we only care about buttons and text input layouts in this case, we're only going to set the shape appearance small component. And we want to set it to a style that inherits from the shape appearance.materialComponents.smallComponent style. So we need to make sure it inherits from the right style. And when you do this, you can say, OK, I want top left and top right to be cut. I want bottom left, bottom right to be rounded. And I want corner size to be 8dp. And now all the small components in your app will now have the same shape with roughly the same radius. And this is really convenient. Doing this by hand otherwise isn't that easy. And you can see that we have a lot of level of granularity. You can say top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. So you can create all sorts of shapes. So I hope you have more fun with this and think of something better to do than I could. All right, so as we see, we now have more control over shape as well. And the final theming subsystem that we want to talk about is typography theming. If you go into the material guidelines, you'll probably see a specification like this, which contains around 12 type scales. And now these are readily available as theme-level attributes for you. So when your designer comes to you and says, hey, I want all of the toolbar text in the app to be this headline 6 style, you can just directly apply text appearance headline 6 because it's available to you now. What a concept, that what you see in the material design is directly available in code. And if you want to customize this headline 6 text, all you have to do is inherit from the headline 6 style, set maybe a font using Android font family, and then you can set that style to the headline 6 default style attribute in this theme, and now all of the headline 6 text in your app have the same look. So with typography theming, we also have a lot more control over text in our app. And hopefully, with color, shape, and typography theming, you are convinced that material theming is awesome and you want to migrate. So let's do that. If your app probably has something like this, where it's inheriting from theme.appcompat.light.whatever, and all you have to do is change it to theme.materialcomponents.whatever. So you basically want to swap out appcompat with material components. And that's just one line of XML change, and now your app is inheriting from material components theme. That's it. This talk is over. Goodbye. Well, this is Android development. We know that things rarely ever work with just one line of change, and material theming is no different. You won't believe what happened next. Our buttons lost icons. They changed background color. They all shrunk. They lost icons. And then our dialogs got these puffy, ugly buttons. In this dialog, we're actually asking customers for money to subscribe to our service, and no one's going to give us money with buttons like that. And then our text input layouts turned into this gray, ugly mess, which, by the way, is the new style of text input layouts. I don't know why. So as you can see, we had a few things to change universally throughout that app. And I'm going to go over how we fixed them one by one, because maybe you might run into them as well. And the first thing to note when you migrate to the material component theme is that all the buttons in your app will now be inflated as material buttons. And this only applies to buttons currently. So if you were using Android:background to style buttons in your app, that does not work anymore. You have to use background tint, which only accepts a color and a color stateless drawable. That's why you saw that our background colors changed, because we were overriding buttons with Android:background, and that doesn't work anymore. And if you want to apply button styling consistently throughout your app, there is a new default style attribute that you can use for this called the material button style that you can set in your theme, and now this will style all of the buttons in your app consistently. Something to note, though, is that the color of the button background by default is your color primary. So if you want to style it to a color that is not your color primary, we can apply our existing knowledge of the styling system to do this. We can use a theme overlay that we can set on a button or a view hierarchy. And in this theme overlay, you can just override your color primary to whatever you want it to be, and now you have different backgrounds for your buttons. However, if you want all of the buttons in your app to have this non-primary color, how would you do that? There is a new attribute that has been introduced to help us with this, and it's called the Material Theme Overlay attribute. And you can set this on the default style. And you might be wondering, OK, but why do we need this? It's because there's no way to currently set Android:theme in your default style. There's no way to override theme attributes at the widget level. So you can do app-wide widget-level styling, but there's no way to do app-wide widget-level theming right now. So if you wanted all of the buttons in your app to have color green, and all of the text input layouts in your app to have color purple, there's no way to currently do that until now. So let's see how this works. Material Theme Overlay is an attribute that you can set in your style, and you want to set it to a good old theme overlay, where you're overriding only what you need to override. In this case, I only want to override the color primary because I want the button backgrounds in my entire app to have this midnight color, which is not my color primary. And then I can use the material button style default style attribute to point to this style, which will then override all of the button backgrounds in my app to this midnight color. And the rest of my app will retain its original color primary, but only the buttons will now have this midnight color. If I wanted to set text input layouts to another color, I'd basically do the exact same thing, maybe set the color primary to purple, and I'd use a different default style attribute in the theme to do this, like the text input style attribute instead of the material button style. So this way, we can now do app-wide widget level theming in addition to doing app-wide widget level styling. So it's a welcome change in the Android styling system, and it fixes a huge deficiency. All right, so I don't know if you remember this, but our buttons had lost some icons. We were able to restore them by inheriting from the material components.button.icon style. And we were able to set the icon attribute to the icon that we want, so no more drawable start rubbish. And then you can set the icon tint to whatever you want it to be. By default, it is tinted by your color primary. So if you wanted to retain the original color of the drawable, like we did for the Google icon, then you want to set the icon tint to null. There's also other very cool attributes that you can use, like icon gravity, icon padding, icon size, etc. So this is a superior styling experience compared to using drawable start. There's also other button styles now, such as text button, outline button, etc. So a lot of things that we were doing by hand, we don't need to do anymore. We can just use this material component styling to do so. And last but not the least, we were able to fix this gray mess by setting the text input style, default style attribute, to this outline box style. So what you see on the left is the filled box style, and we changed it to the outline box style, which is what you see on the right, because we thought that looked better. And something to note is that the color of selection is equal to color primary by default. So if you want to override this for all of text input layouts, you can use material theme overlay. If you want to override it in just a couple places, you can use theme overlay to do that. So as you can see, we had a bunch of things to fix. And depending on the state of your app, it might be a very quick migration. Maybe your color palette and styling is in excellent condition, or it might take a lot of time. It might be like going through the forest and the wildlife, right? It depends on how your styling system is currently set up, and our styles weren't in the best condition, but we were able to do it in a small amount of time, but that may not be the case for you. In which case, I recommend that you use bridge themes. And what this does is it inherits from the app compat theme, but it has new theme attributes defined for you. So when you migrate to this theme, nothing will change visually, but you can start using the material components one by one as and when you're ready. You can maybe set, for example, the material button style, default style attribute to a material button style, and now all of the buttons in your app have this new material component style, but the rest of your app remains untouched. If you were to use a material component with an app compat theme, there is a chance that your app might crash because a lot of these material components look for these new theme attributes to be defined in your app theme. So you lose nothing from migrating to a bridge theme, and you actually safeguard yourself from these crashes as well. In order to migrate to the bridge theme, you want to change app compat to material components, and you want to append bridge at the end, and voila, you now have the bridge material component theme. I know this is just one line change, but I promise this works. If it doesn't, let me know. And finally, I want to leave you with some debugging tips, because often when you're styling, things can look kind of funny. And hopefully this will help you figure out why. So first, you want to find the attributes that matter. I would start with the documentation here because the documentation for material components have improved. But we all know documentation may not get us all the way there. So maybe you're like, OK, how or where did I get this blue from in this button? You first want to look into the view layout XML. Are you setting it there? Is there a style being set there? If not, you want to look at your Android manifest. Is there a theme being set on your activity? If not, you want to go to your app theme, find the default style for the button, see if it's being set there. Unfortunately, you kind of just have to dive in to find it. We're not robots. We can't memorize all of the attributes and where they are and what they do. But hopefully, it shouldn't be that bad anymore. And then when you find these attributes, figure out if they're theme-level attributes, style-level attributes, text appearance, etc. Because it's great if you find the attributes that matter, but if you apply a theme-level attribute as a style, it's not going to work. So you have to be mindful of what kind of attributes they are. And once you know that, refer back to the order of precedence, which is the colorful rectangle thing I showed you, and ask yourself, what could possibly be overriding this? Maybe you are setting the right thing, but something above it is overriding it. So definitely be conscious of this. And if you're using the material component theme, then try extending the material component style and see if that fixes it. As you saw, that was the fix for some of the things that looked odd. And last but not the least, it may not be you, it might be them. There are bugs. The latest material component stuff is in alpha, so if you did all of this and it's still not working, it's probably worth filing a bug or going in and seeing if the bug exists. The Google devs that worked on this are very active on Stack Overflow and GitHub. And here are some useful links for when you have time. I highly recommend going through them. And this wraps up the talk. If you have any questions, please come talk to me. My slides are at that link and in my Twitter, which is Anita3791. It's pinned at the top. Shout out to Nick Butcher and Cyril Mortier. Their content has been the inspiration for this talk. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.